The radio home of Tom Joyner, Al Sharpton, Carl Nelson, and Bev Smith. News Talk 1450 AM, WOL, and 95.9 FM.
Welcome, NBA fans. Tonight's NBA
Man, nothing beats seeing an NBA game in person. Hey, buddy, thanks again for driving. So, where are our seats?
Oh, we're sitting right around the corner.
Hey, but before we do anything, let me stop for a second at the designated driver booth and make the pledge.
Excuse me, sir. Did you say designated driver?
Yeah, I'm the designated driver tonight.
Congratulations. You are a winner. And for being the designated driver and always buckling up, every trip, every time, you have won the adoration of your friends and family who will get home safely from the game.
Cool.
Your prize also includes the gratitude of all of the drivers on the road who won't have to fear for their lives. And finally, you've won the chance to follow your favorite NBA team to the NBA Finals because responsibility has its rewards.
Woo! Yeah!
To find out more, visit the designated driver booth at the arena or visit rhir.org. A message from this station and Team Coalition.
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. With millions of YouTube views, shares, Instagram likes, followers, and fans across the globe. But what do all these amazing pets have in common? Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a shelter or adoptable pets near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard? Well, that's entirely up to you. Visit theshelterpetproject.org and hear more about Hamilton the Pug, Toast, and Keyboard Cat's amazing adoption stories. Start a story. Adopt a shelter or rescue pet today. Your perfect pet is just a click away at theshelterpetproject.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. I improved my credit score.
You're kidding, right?
No.
How are we supposed to be the bad boys of electro synth pop if you're out there being responsible? The band is about to be discovered. This is our year.
Yeah, you've been saying that for a while now.
You think anyone in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was worried about their credit score?
I never really thought that.
Of course they weren't. Rock stars aren't supposed to think about that kind of stuff. We're supposed to think about how many guitars we've smashed, write aggressively sensitive power ballads, start questionable fashion trends, tragically break up and blame creative differences.
All right. I thought maybe it was time to take control of my finances, you know? Start using a budget. Get out of debt. Set some goals.
A budget? Debt? Set some goals? Listen, I knew that we'd have our creative differences, but I was hoping they'd involve a little more scandal.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
They'll challenge your authority. They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
You're listening to the most powerful voice in talk radio, 1450 WOL, where information is power.
The views and opinions of the following show do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of News Talk 1450 WOL, Radio 1 Incorporated, or their management.
Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell is sponsored by Equity Resource, a development, construction, and investment firm that is transforming properties throughout the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Our mission is to develop properties at a high level of value, a low risk of investment, while providing impeccable service to our customers. When you're ready to sell, renovate, or invest in a property, choose Equity Resource. Call us today at 621-6632 or visit our website, equityresource.net.
Good morning and welcome to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. Now for today's show, here's attorney Ethel Mitchell.
I have this new producer who likes to have music appropriate to the subject matter of the program, you see. So thin line between love and hate is kind of like what we're going to be talking about today, but from a legal perspective. Welcome to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. I am your host, attorney Ethel Mitchell. This is our 3rd year anniversary, and we are revisiting the first topic that we had on the program and that we've come back to several times, and that is law and matters of the heart. Law and matters of the heart. And we have with us our very first guest, attorney Michelle Thomas. Welcome back, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You were our first guest, and you've been on many times. So if you want to go to lawtalkwithethelmitchell.com and search for Michelle Thomas, she will come up quite often. Yes. It's been 3 years.
That's that very first show.
That very first show, yeah. So today what we're going to talk about is the subject of law as it impacts love, divorce. First, I want to tell you a little about Michelle, but one of the things she's going to talk about and tell us from a legal point of view is how to divorce-proof your marriage from a legal point of view. And then she's going to talk to us about if, God forbid, you know, it does look like that's a possibility. When I say that, I mean a divorce, what you should do at that point, okay? So let me tell you a little about Michelle. She went to North Carolina, NCC, right?
Chapel Hill, Ethel. We have to get that one right.
Get it right. Let me get it right for me. You're a Tar Heel. Okay. And then where'd you go to law school?
The George Washington University Law School.
Right here in D.C.?
Right here in Washington.
Okay.
Many, many years ago.
Okay. She's a veteran trial lawyer. She founded her own firm, MC Thomas & Associates. Is a sophisticated divorce and family law firm that serves Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, and suburban Maryland, okay? She's been repeatedly ranked as a top family lawyer in this area in Washington, D.C. by Super Lawyers, and has spent her entire career handling complex divorce litigation, high net worth divorce, and contested custody cases for traditional and non-traditional families. She has developed strategies to help her clients achieve their goals. She has extensive experience in skillfully protecting assets through prenuptial and postnuptial agreements, post-separation planning, and aggressive litigation when necessary. She handles issues like stock options, securities, deferred compensation, business valuations and projections, real estate holdings, private and governmental retirement benefits, professional goodwill for athletes and corporate executives. She can find hidden assets and more. The firm works with tax consultants and other financial professionals to incorporate tax planning in settlement negotiations and trial strategies. It is very important, she says, to do your best to resolve matters outside of court, if at all possible. But if you got to go to court, she's fully prepared to protect you and to take care of your interest. So she's been very regular in local and national media. She's been in the Washington Times, the Washington Examiner, Essence Magazine. She's been on the Michael Baisden Show, Fox News, News One now with Roland Martin, and is a frequent contributor to call-ins on the Audrey Chapman Show when that was going on, the Daily Drum, And, of course, Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell.
Yes.
So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Talk to us, Michelle, about, from a legal point of view, how do you divorce-proof your marriage?
Sure. And that's a really important question in this time of love, this month of love that we're in.
Yes, this is the month of love as we try to deal with it.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of the experts and sort of psychologists will say, well, communication is key. But what I can tell you from doing this for many, many years of experience, that parties and couples need to focus on appreciating each other and those little things. Because people I hear, they come into my office all the time and might complain about my spouse doesn't do this, my spouse doesn't do that. But what does your spouse do that's positive? And try to think about that. Does the spouse make you coffee every morning? I mean, does the spouse take the garbage out? There are little things that people overlook, and which eventually contributes to eroding the relationship.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but moving on from that, of course, honesty is critically important.
Yeah, if you can't trust somebody, it's just about over.
It's pretty much right. You're fighting a losing battle there. So it's really important to be honest and tell your spouse pretty much everything. So when people come in and they talk about basically leading separate lives, separate bank accounts, separate, sets of friends, separate vacations and trips that they've gone on, they haven't really blended their lives and come together, then that is where a lot of the crux of the problem starts.
And I bet that happens.
And festers.
I bet that happens now that people are marrying later in life.
And that's exactly correct. And I've talked many times on your show as an advocate for prenuptial agreements,
yes.
because people are marrying so much later in life.
And already got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and so the byproduct of that though is that people then begin to keep things separate and don't fully disclose what's going on, whether it's with their money or whether it's with if they had prior children from a prior relationship and things of that nature. So you still want to be and as much of an open book as possible to try to help blend into one unit.
Okay, but that does not mean you put their name on your title to your house right away.
Oh no.
Okay, or put their name on your bank account right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I still absolutely am an advocate for protecting, your assets and your future and your property and all of that. But taking care of those legal contractual things, there are still two hearts that need to come together. So that shouldn't prevent you from still talking and having open communication and dialogue and being honest with one another about what's really going on.
Okay.
Another factor or issue that comes up often that contributes to the demise of marriages that you want to be careful of is when there's an attraction to someone else, whether it's a coworker or someone, in a friendship circle, and you can tell either the spouse is attracted to someone else or that person's coming on to your spouse. That is something you want to watch out for, because adultery, which is having obviously extramarital affairs, is also a contributing factor to people
you see that a lot in your divorces?
Oh, Ethel, do I see it a lot?
Oh my goodness! Really?
That is. Yeah, but I always say that it starts with those beginning steps we talked about, such as someone not feeling appreciated in the marriage. Okay, and then you end up and then someone else starts giving compliments and making the person feel really good about themselves, and then before you know it, that divide, that crack starts to emerge. And then,
that can happen with men and women, I bet.
Oh, it happens on both sides, absolutely. And I'm talking about people that are generally decent people, not people who are just serial, cheaters and things of that nature.
Right.
So
no, these are good people who have good intentions. Right. And that's important.
Right.
Yeah, you're listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. I'm your host, Attorney Ethel Mitchell. My guest is Attorney Michelle C. Thomas. Let me give you her office number. It's 202-536-4841. You can find her website at thomaslawdc.com. And we're talking about law and matters of the heart. I asked Michelle to come in and talk with us about how to divorce-proof your marriage. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to have her continue the conversation, and we're going to more specifically talk about legal agreements and matters that are contractual agreements and matters that can protect and help while still also supporting. It can be supportive of the emotional part of marriage, which of course is important. Okay, we'll be right back.
You're listening to the most powerful voice
of marriage, which of course is important. Okay, we'll be right back.
You're listening to the most powerful voice in talk radio, 1450 WOL, where information is power.
It's a new year. Don't wait until the last minute to take care of your taxes. It's tax time today and time to get your refund up to 2 days faster with the One VIP card. Register, file your taxes, and use your refund. It's just that easy. The One VIP card from American Express Serve is a full-service, reloadable, prepaid account that costs $1 per month. You also get free ATM access and free online bill payment. So register now and get your tax refund fast with free direct deposit with the One VIP card. Your card will arrive in 7 to 10 business days and will include your routing and account number to use on your tax return forms. I told you, it's just that easy. There's no other card like the One VIP card. I challenge you to find one. Visit onevipcard.com. Let One VIP features and benefits help you get more out of your tax refund. Need more information? Go to onevipcard.com. That's onevipcard.com. Terms, fees, and restrictions apply. Go to onevipcard.com for more details.
Moving today or tomorrow and not sure who to call? Well, your worries are over. Ted's Moving and Hauling at 301-254-8221 is your one-stop place to call when you need to move from your apartment, home, or office. Ted's Moving and Hauling is one of the best, with experience and professional movers to handle all your needs with no job too large or too small. Ted's can do it all. Call now to find out more. 301-254-8221. That's 301-254-8221. Need something hauled away? Ted can do that too. Ted's Moving and Hauling is one of the best, and with some of the best prices in town. So, if you need to move uptown, downtown, or out of town, call Ted's Moving and Hauling today at 301-254-8221. That's 301-254-8221. That's Ted's Moving and Hauling, moving you from your home, office, or church. Call Ted's today at 301-254-8221.
My blinds were so ugly, I hung up drapes just to hide them. Finally, I got new ones, and they're stunning thanks to Blinds.com. The prices, selection, and quality are amazing. Shipping is free, and their professional designers gave me a free online design consultation, helping me pick, measure, and install the perfect blinds for every room.
Now through January 31st, get 20% off everything at Blinds.com with promo code HOME. That's Blinds.com promo code HOME for 20% off your entire order. Rules and restrictions apply.
You wanted to see me?
Yes, please, have a seat. So here's the thing. When this company brought you on, we took a chance on you. You didn't have that 4-year college degree we typically look for.
Right.
But we gave you a shot anyway. And since then, you've worked incredibly hard and given it your all.
Thanks.
You've been an important asset to the team, but I don't think you can be an intern here anymore. We want to hire you.
You're serious?
Absolutely.
Find your next great employee. Introduce yourself to the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
I won't let you down.
I know.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
I rescued Toast from a shelter in 2011. I love Toast because she's a lazy diva. Toast does whatever she wants, obviously. She's sleeping right now. She's so loving. She's so comforting. When I walked into the shelter, I knew right then that she was special.
Toast, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. You're listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. I'm your host, Attorney Ethel Mitchell, and I have as my guest Michelle Thomas of the law firm of MC Thomas and Associates. During the break, we were talking about how this is becoming, when I say this, I mean people are marrying in their 30s and 40s when they've been working already for 10 years or more. They have savings, they have retirement. Often they've bought a home. Sometimes there are children involved already or not. And I'm wondering, Michelle, how do you recommend when people are considering marrying, how do you recommend they open up and start this process?
Sure. So I recommend to your listeners, anyone thinking about this, to take 2 steps and focus on both the emotional side of what it means to get married, as well as the legal side. So I certainly am an advocate of getting premarital counseling or pastoral counseling or something like that to help you to ask those tough questions and talk through some of the issues that you might never be able to imagine will arise during the course of your marriage.
And will.
But quite frankly, meeting with, and it might not sound sexy to your listeners, but meeting with a lawyer in advance of getting married to discuss prenuptial agreements and sort of talk through those issues can actually help, because disputes over money are another leading cause of divorce. And so what planning for the marriage and protecting yourself and the like, what that can yield is an open and honest discussion about your finances. Who should be responsible for what bills? What are your spending habits? I see this all the time, where you might have one spouse who's frivolous and a thrifty person, and the other spouse is just charging up a storm. I mean, there's no concept of investing and saving and planning for the future, retirement planning, tax planning. And so these disputes then ultimately arise when one spouse might learn that there's a huge credit card debt on the other side, or even a tax liability on the other side that they didn't know about, which is a big one, because what people don't know legally is that if you are married and one spouse has a tax liability, the IRS can come after either of you and can seize assets from either spouse due to a liability of one.
That has happened.
Right. So
I know people that has happened.
It happens. It happens.
And it continues even after they got divorced.
Right.
You know? I know one young lady whose paycheck was being garnished for years for the debt of a husband she had divorced.
Right.
And yet they were still taking money out of her paycheck for his debt.
Yeah. And let me just tell your listeners, if you find yourself in a similar situation, there's something called an injured spouse form.
Yes.
So you need to speak to your tax consultant or advisor about an injured spouse form if you are in this situation where there's a tax liability issue that you didn't cause, however, you're the one paying the consequences for it.
And sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't.
It doesn't always work, but it's just something to consider. And so having that dialogue about how bills will be paid and the like is really important to minimizing the disruption and conflict that will inevitably arise during the marriage.
So can a couple come to you before marriage without necessarily knowing what a prenup is, but just, can you give them like the framework of what are the things they need to talk about? And I mean, how would that work? What are you recommending? Because this is serious.
Sure. And I always talk on your show about planning, being prepared for the future. And so you can simply call up someone an attorney who focuses on family law issues and prenuptial agreements and say, I'm planning to get married. Here are my concerns. What can I do, if anything, right now to better be prepared for the future? And a lawyer should be able to talk through various issues that will arise. We talked about some of them, about household bills and spending. Other issues that you might consider talking about is, if you're going to buy property together or home together, if one person puts in a larger portion of the down payment, at the end of the day, if you sell the house, who gets the money? How do you want that to be decided down the road if these issues come up? Because in a prenup, which, just for your listeners, is a contract that parties enter into before they married in contemplation of marriage, that sets forth various duties and responsibilities and determines what will happen with property at the end of the day if there's a divorce. So you might want to talk through those issues, and a lawyer can help you think about things that you may never have even contemplated previously.
And people should know there's what's called a postnuptial agreement.
And that's true. And if you're on the other side of
you've already gotten married,
of the table,
you can have this conversation.
Yes, you can still take steps to sign a postnuptial agreement and say, well, listen, we have some concerns here, but we're trying to work through it. But this is what we want to happen in the event that the marriage dissolves.
Okay. Let me give out her phone number again. It's 202-536 4841. She is active in the practice of law in D.C., suburban Maryland, and Northern Virginia. Her website is thomaslawdc.com, and her email is thomaslawdc.com. You can contact her, and I would recommend actually sitting down and having a consultation. I think with both parties. Both parties, preferably, if possible. If not, then one party can go in to find out how the process works and so forth. Okay. You can, even if the other party does not want to do it, you can go on and get started with developing a prenup. Is that correct? And have it presented to the party. But I think the better way, if possible, is to have it.
But ultimately, once the prenup's prepared, both parties want to have separate attorneys review it to make sure that their interests
is protected. Yeah. That's important. I think we're going to go on to talk about other things on the subject matter, but if you have questions, please feel free to call in at this point, 1-800-450-7876, 1-800-450-7876. So we've talked a little about how to plan when you're just getting ready to get married, and also how to plan after you are married if you want to stay together, but you feel the need to kind of solidify and put into a contractual format your respective duties. Maybe you didn't do it before, but now it's time to do it, okay? Talk to us now about, God forbid, if you're beginning to think that, I need to protect myself.
Sure.
You may not be ready yet to move away from the marriage. You may actually want to preserve the marriage, but how do you protect yourself?
Right. When you start to first see signs of differences in behavior and things that concern you, you want to really pay close attention. So, for example, if the spouse's work schedule has changed, if they're suddenly staying later at work, not coming home right away, that may start causing some concern. If you notice, if you're using a joint bank account and the deposits from one spouse's income or check change, they decrease, and money is perhaps being diverted or deposited elsewhere, that should be a red flag. A red flag for you. And if someone is starting to make excuses or just not be present, any sort of significant deviations in behavior, you may say, well, maybe it's time that I speak to someone, because you may be able to put pieces in place that can protect you from, let's say, hidden assets from a spouse taking money without you knowing it, and things of that nature.
Like what? Give us some examples, if you don't mind, of the kinds of things you might recommend.
Sure. So, for example, if you are concerned that money's disappearing and you're both using a joint account, maybe it makes sense that you start using a separate account and preserving money elsewhere, so that you don't wake up one day and the money's gone. Because that happens an awful lot.
Yes,
and it's a lot easier to protect the money to be proactive about that than trying to get it back after it's already gone or wasted, which happens often. If you see charges, let's say, on a credit card statement, Victoria's Secrets and things of that nature, and you know that you didn't get a gift, right, and you know that you're not the one that received the gift. Those are the kinds of things that we look at and say, well, wait a minute here, maybe it's time to have some more honest dialogue about what's really going on.
Yeah, that's important. That's really important. And you know what? I didn't say my usual no attorney-client relationship is established by anything said on this program. Please understand this is for educational and informational purposes only. You must seek legal advice for any individual legal advice when you need any kind of legal counsel for yourself.
That's correct.
Okay, so please remember what we're saying here is just informational. Now, what can you do once you're pretty sure something like this is going on?
Then you meet with an attorney as soon as possible.
Sure.
Yes, and your own attorney as soon as possible, as early in the process as you can, because early planning is really the best kind of planning. What you don't want to do is get through to the end of the road after having invested your time and money and energy into a marriage and then have regrets. And the best way to avoid having those regrets is to plan as early as possible.
Yeah. Don't put your head in the sand either.
Yeah, don't ignore it, because that's what we see. And it's like people just, they don't want to believe that it could be happening to them, but it's common. I mean, more than half of marriage, and it's like people just, they don't want to believe that it could be happening to them, but it's common. I mean, more than half of marriages, unfortunately, end in divorce, and so you can't ignore some very obvious signs.
Yeah.
People also, now I don't recommend this. I don't recommend trolling your spouse's social media pages, but it's been it's very common these days that a lot of evidence is found from people's postings on, various social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and the like. But amazing that people would post, or that people... right.
I mean, it's almost like you want to get caught.
Right. And that's one thing I've never understood. Make your page private or take it down, because it's going to come back to haunt you down the road.
Always. And you talked about that before, how once it's on there, even when you take it off, you can always
it's never
find
really,
it again.
Yeah.
It's never really gone.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take one more break again, too, and we'll be back, okay? We'll be back. I have some more interesting questions for you, like when somebody gets divorced, how long should you wait before you date a divorcee?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So stay tuned. We've got some more questions for you.
You're listening to the most powerful voice in talk radio, 1450 WOL, where information is power.
The IRS doesn't mess around. If they want your money, they'll take it. They can take your paycheck and bank accounts too, even threaten your home or business. And it's about to get worse. The IRS just hired an army of new tax enforcers. So if you owe back taxes, the smartest thing you can do is call Optima Tax Relief. Optima has access to a special IRS tax assistance program called the Fresh Start Initiative, and their clients that qualify are saving thousands, even tens of thousands. One call starts the process to stop the demand letters, stop aggressive collection actions, and stop that army of new enforcers from targeting you. But don't delay. It's important that you act while you still have options. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and offers a one-of-a-kind guarantee. Get your life back. Call now for your free consultation.
Call 800-845-8122. 800-845-8122. 800-845-8122.
Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
You're not wired to have a response to this sound. You're neutral to it. You hear it every time you finish a meal and never feel anything. But if we were able to associate this sound with a new stimulus, save the food, we've achieved pulling a natural response from you. Save the food. Why are we doing this, you may ask? Save the food. Because this ad is trying to change your after-meal behavior through brainwashing. Because food waste costs the average family $1,500 a year. Save the food, cha-ching. And $1,500 extra bucks is like getting a pay raise. Save the food, cha-ching. You're promoted. Which could pay for your child's braces. Save the food, cha-ching. You're promoted. Check out my braces. So when you hear this sound, rethink your behavior. Cook it, store it, share it. Just don't waste it. For tips and recipes, visit SaveTheFood.com. Brought to you by NRDC and the Ad Council.
Of course, I want our kids to eat fresh, healthy foods all the time. But we don't have a supermarket nearby, so it's a challenge.
I wish we were closer to good health care because of our son's asthma. Frankly, it's scary at times.
I'd love for our family to live in a nice house, near a great school, but
none of these resources exist in our neighborhood.
Many variables can shape the outcome of children's lives, like the zip code where they grow up. That's because not all communities have the same opportunities, such as quality schools and housing, fresh food, and good health care. There are many ways to improve communities, so everyone has a fair chance. Regardless of zip code, you can make a difference. Join with HUD and local leaders to improve your community. Learn how at HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Fair housing, shared opportunity in every community. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
They'll challenge your authority.
Seatbelt on?
They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
From your corner of the block to your corner of the world, let your voice be heard. WOL News Talk 1450 AM, 95.9 FM, and worldwide. WOLDCnews.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. We have esteemed lawyer Michelle C. Thomas, who's an expert in matters of law and the heart. I wanted to talk a little bit about dating after the divorce. How long should you wait to date a divorcee? And then I want to get into the impact of infidelity on a divorce and on custody, for that matter, too. Yeah. So talk to us, Michelle.
Listen, it's no surprise. Divorce is an extremely exhausting and difficult process in most instances. It's draining emotionally. It can be draining financially. So it's something that requires time. And it's also requires grieving the loss of something. Yes. And so the longer the marriage, a lot of times it's going to take a longer amount of time to be able to heal and get over it. And so something that your listeners want to think about, first of all, if you're contemplating dating someone who says they're newly divorced, the first thing I recommend is confirm that they actually are divorced and not just separated. Because you would be surprised. You would be surprised the people that may say, "Oh, I'm divorced," and then you find out after you've invested some time and energy and money that they're actually just separated, or maybe they're not. So, for example, have you been to the person's home? Have you actually seen and confirmed that they are not living with a significant other? Yeah. And let me just listen. Valentine's Day is coming up. If you're dating someone who's divorced, but you've never been to the home, and you're not spending Valentine's Day with that person, for example, you may want to ask some further questions. You might want to even ask to see the divorce decree, and it's not sexy, but it's necessary because you don't want to invest in someone who's emotionally and possibly legally unavailable.
Totally unavailable, and lying to you on such a fundamental level.
It's pretty basic, but I've actually I've seen this in my practice. I've seen it in my office, people that thought they were involved with someone who was single and were not. Someone was already married. So it happens. And so you really, in today's day and age, society's changed, and you really have to do your due diligence to make sure that you're being smart about your future and moving forward.
And your life and your love. That's important.
Yeah, but now let's say we've confirmed now that the person's actually divorced.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You want to give it some time because are you a rebound? You want to make sure the person's emotionally not just clinging to you because he or she is not used to being alone and just wants to jump into that next relationship.
That's a good point.
So you want to make sure that there's that. And then also, if there are children involved, understand that as the newcomer to the situation, you will come second. So you really need to do some self-assessment. Are you someone who was able to come behind knowing that person's children? And also, are you confident enough to know that the person will continue to have ongoing dialogue with the ex? That the ex will always be part, if there's children involved, will always be part of that person's life.
For sure.
And so are you comfortable and confident enough to not feel, insecure about that relationship? So there are really a lot of complications when you're thinking about dating someone who is particularly newly divorced and then newly divorced with children.
Okay.
Very important. And then even planning your time. Your time will maybe scheduled around that person's custodial time, with the kids. And so there may be an event you want to go to. The person's not available because they have the kids that weekend. So that's really important. And I also suggest that people not introduce children to a new love interest right away. You want to give a lot of time, there as well.
Yeah, that's important because the children get attached.
Children get attached. Yeah, they definitely get attached. And also, you want to make sure that you're not that you met the person after they had concluded their prior relationship. So in other words, you don't want to be the other person that caused or contributed to the demise of the divorce, because that opens up a whole new can of worms.
Yeah. Those are very good points. Now, let's get into what is the impact of infidelity during a marriage on divorce and on custody. When I was growing up, they used to say it's cheaper to keep her, and there was a reason for that.
Yeah.
Okay. So talk to us about, is that still true?
So I think it is still true in a lot of instances. It is still cheaper to keep her because divorce, it can get costly. However, I think today's generation is sort of the mindset that life is too short, and they want to live it and live it to the fullest.
And they don't want to care.
And they don't, and they're going to make changes. So infidelity on divorce legally can have significant consequences depending upon the jurisdiction that you're in. So let's focus, for example, on Virginia. In Virginia,
it's tough.
Yeah, listen. I practice there.
Yeah.
So legally, adultery is still a crime in Virginia. Now,
what?
People aren't getting prosecuted, anymore.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, but there are. It's taken pretty seriously. And in Virginia, just like Maryland, is what's called a fault-based jurisdiction. So you can file for divorce on the ground of adultery. And let me tell you how that can affect your alimony request, meaning request for spousal support, and custody. In a jurisdiction like Virginia, if you are found to be cheating, having committed adultery, the court can bar you from seeking alimony from your spouse unless you can prove that there is what's called a manifest injustice, meaning there has to be really extreme circumstances for you to still be eligible to receive alimony if you've been the one who's been unfaithful in that marriage. So if you were, let's say, a stay-at-home spouse and had a little fun on the side while your other spouse was working hard, just be careful, because you may be jeopardizing your rights and claims to alimony in a jurisdiction like that.
Wow.
So it's really taken seriously. And the impact on custody can also be significant if, number one, you've spent significant time away from the home engaging in your flings and your, whining and dining someone else. If you've sacrificed your custodial time with the children, you've sacrificed going to, parent-teacher conferences and, little Johnny's basketball games so that you could go out and have a good time, that's going to come back to haunt you down the road or when you get to court. Also, the court will look at whether you've exposed the children to these, paramours, flings, we'll call them, and that can be taken very negatively, reflect very poorly on you as a parent.
And cost you money too.
And now seeing the money I didn't get to yet, but the other thing that courts will look at is, have you been spending money on your mistress or fling? And it goes both ways. But if you've been spending, I've seen one time I saw a situation where the person's other involvement, paramour, lived in another continent. So the person was flying back and forth from the United States to another continent to visit this person. Oh, that was some money. And you don't get to do that with marital money. With money that you and your spouse have accrued, you don't get to spend that kind of money. It could be even trips to Vegas. I've seen that many times where you're meeting up with your, fling in Vegas or Atlantic City, having a good time.
What does the judge say when you come to how does that?
Here's what the judge will say. They will now it depends on the lawyer. You have to have a good and solid legal strategy there. But the judge will say, if you prove it, you spent, $50,000 flying around the world, flying this person all over the country. Well, you're going to pay $25,000 of that back. You're going to pay half of that money back to the spouse if it was marital money. So it's what we call dissipation of assets or waste of marital assets legally.
So if you spent $10,000 on a piece of jewelry for your girlfriend or your boyfriend, because it goes both ways.
It goes both ways, let me tell you.
Then you have to pay half of that money back.
That's a high possibility if you can prove and show that.
Serious.
And so we do spend time in my practice tracing the money. Money leaves a paper trail. So we can because it is so true, Ethel. And so you can really track how much money's been spent on, whether it's hotels, even locally, just people will meet on, lunch breaks, or track how much money's been spent on, whether it's hotels, even locally, just people will meet on, lunch breaks or after work at hotels to engage in these other flings. Well, you don't get to do that with marital money. And so that's how it's adultery.
You don't get away with it.
Well,
right. Sure.
Right. Legally, there are ways that you can face some serious repercussions legally for those behaviors.
That's a financial cost that you have to pay, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not just you're a bad boy.
Oh, no.
They hit you in the pocketbook.
No. You can suffer financially in the courts, in the legal system, and in the divorce process if you've been doing that. And you really have to talk to a lawyer, because in all instances, if you've just, bought the person a cup of coffee or, dinner a few times, it may not be worth it to go down that path. Mm-hmm. And so what I always try to do is counsel clients to say, we want to try to not just seek revenge on the person and not do it just from an angry place. Mm-hmm. But if there's real, dollars here that have been wasted, let's say, where it could have gone to children's tuition or, something meaningful, then it may be worth it. But you always want to do a sort of a cost-benefit analysis with your attorney to figure out whether it makes sense to go down that road.
I know. That's the first time I've ever heard that you can do that.
Oh, yeah, and we've done it.
I say you know it because you have done it.
That's correct.
Wow. You're listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. Our guest is Michelle Thomas, attorney Michelle Thomas. She is, as you can hear, an expert divorce attorney. What other things do you do where you can show and prove the cost of people being unfaithful or other actions in the divorce?
Sure. Well, it boils down, and it sounds like we're going to have to take a break soon, but it boils down frequently to gathering all the requisite bank statements, financial statements. A lot of times people will take draws out of their 401k accounts, which you're supposed to have, but you're supposed to have your spouse's signature for most 401k account loans. But a lot of times that doesn't happen.
Right.
And why is that?
You can go and get it back from them.
Correct. If the money was not spent on the family.
On the family.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to take one more break, and then we'll be back. And if you have questions about this subject matter, please call in 1-800-450-7876. This is interesting. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
You're listening to the most powerful voice in talk radio, 1450 WOL, where information is power.
Have you been denied credit? Are you paying high interest rates because of a low credit score? Join the thousands of people who've relied on CreditRepair.com to help rebuild their credit score.
I went to get my first car. I had to get a used car, high interest, and so I knew that things were done from there.
For over 15 years, we've helped thousands with their search for solutions to credit issues. We communicate with you, your creditors, and the credit bureaus with a unique approach designed to remove items like late payments, collections, charge-offs, liens, bankruptcy, and foreclosures that are unfair or inaccurate.
And I've gone up 40 points already.
There are many services offering to tell you your credit score and even monitor it for you. But what good is just knowing your credit score when what you really need is to fix it? Credit Repair members see a significant improvement in their credit scores month after month. Call now to get your no-obligation credit consultation, including your free credit score and free summary credit report. Don't delay. Call 800-637-3854. That's 800-637-3854. 800-637-3854.
This is WOL News Talk 1450 AM and 95.9 FM 959.
Talk with Ethel Mitchell. I'm your host, Attorney Ethel Mitchell. We have as our guest Attorney Michelle Thomas, and she's been giving us some very interesting and important information that shows how expensive it can be to commit adultery in a marriage. I never knew it got that detailed.
Yeah. And, it can be difficult to prove adultery because there is a higher burden of proof in some jurisdictions. Like in Virginia, you have to prove it by what we call clear and convincing evidence, which is beyond reasonable doubt, which a lot of people hear about on TV with criminal law.
Yeah, with criminal law.
And the lower level, which is preponderance of the evidence. And the same is true even in states like Maryland. So it does require some specificity, but be careful because you don't know whether there's a private investigator that's been following you and tracking your every step. So if you're engaging in that behavior, just,
and watch your social accounts. I mean, people be putting stuff on Facebook. I see a lot of grinning faces over in the...
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So it can cost you.
Oh, it can cost you. It can cost you. Yeah. And the other thing is, in addition to paying back what you might have used on non-marital expenses
on
the other
your paramour, you have to pay that back.
You may have to pay half of that
back
roughly.
To your spouse.
Yeah. But in addition to that, they may have to also pay the attorney's fees for the other spouse for having to spend the money to track that down or hire private investigators.
You got to pay for finding yourself guilty.
Yeah, that's correct. And that is messed up. But
that is messed up, but that is real.
It's real. Yeah.
Wow. And I guess in these days it could be women being unfaithful to men as well.
Oh, it works both ways, Ethel. You never heard me say that it was just, blaming the man.
So
it definitely
it's not
works.
just cheaper to keep her.
Or him.
Or him, too. Oh, my goodness. This is wild.
Yeah.
I didn't know it got that bad.
Oh, it can get intense. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, you're listening to Law Talk, and this is where you come to hear the real thing. This is really happening, Although, again, this is just informational. It is not attorney-client relationship. So please talk to a lawyer before you act on any of these things.
Absolutely.
Please go to thomaslawdc.com. Get in touch with Attorney Thomas. I understand we have a caller on the line. Good morning. May I help you? Do you have a question?
Well, yes, ma'am. Good morning, Attorney Ethel Mitchell.
Good morning. Good morning.
Let me turn this down. I just want to say this is Diamond Yvonne, and I want to tell you that I have been listening to you for a while now. Off and on, I'm back. And I just really, really, really appreciate you doing this show, for starters.
Well, thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.
Love the energy and the upbeat way you approach the serious subject of law.
It is very serious, but we do try to make it reasonable, yes.
And thank you for bringing this lovely, knowledgeable...
Attorney Thomas, yes.
Attorney Michelle C. Thomas. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you.
And I just want to give you props for bringing on Buddha. The music it just adds such a wonderful dimension. I love it. I'm loving it.
That's also Kiana, my producer,
and Kiana.
Yes,
whoever, all of you all just totally rock. I don't have any questions. I want to let you know that you are greatly appreciated.
Well,
and I'm going to be calling you
to
help me with my own talk show, which is coming up, okay?
All right. Well, thank you.
So remember, Diamond Yvonne. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm glad we always wanted the show to both be interesting, fun, but also educational.
Yeah, and informative. And you've done
very
that.
Informative, and so that people get educated on how the law, because the law really does impact everything that you do, and it's in all parts of life. It really is.
It really is, and people often think they can outsmart the law, or they can, they can hide and conceal, but let me tell you, it's not worth it. Mm-hmm. It's really not worth it, because in the end, if you have the right people and legal team on your side, it can come back to haunt you.
Yeah. That's a reason why they call lawyers smart. Okay. We are trained to do this stuff,
right? And think about that, right? We spent 3 years in school, and then
20 years or more doing it.
Yeah.
So we've dealt with I mean, everyone is a little bit different, but we have often dealt with a lot of people.
Yeah, and the goal is fairness, from the courts.
Bottom line.
Not revenge. It's not any of that, but it's doing what's equitable and what is fair.
Right.
And that's the
right.
goal.
And I used to, years ago when I used to do divorce, I insisted that any client I took had to have a counselor.
Yeah, you've told me that before.
Yeah.
I think that's excellent. Okay.
Yeah, no. They
and
had to have a counselor.
That.
Yeah, they had to. I would have some resources. Many people go to their church. Their pastor does counseling, but they're professional counselors as well.
Yeah.
And I would not take a case unless that person had in place and used a counselor.
Well, you all heard it from
the difference. Yeah,
you heard it from Ethel first. If you call my office and we start asking you that, you know where I got it from.
The emotional side is a huge piece of divorce, but the legal and the financial side
is so important.
So important to yourself individually, but also to your children. Because they're going to still be there after the divorce.
Absolutely.
You're going to be there after the divorce. And sometimes emotionally it's really hard to see past the divorce.
It is.
Really hard to see past the divorce.
Yeah, and I always tell people to keep in mind you are role modeling for your children what it means to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
And so if you want your kids to have a fighting chance at having a functional relationship as adults, then
be aware,
be mindful of how you're conducting yourself, because they see and absorb everything,
and they copy. They will copy. They definitely will. Well, are there any other pointers that you want to give my audience in terms of law and matters of the heart before we close down? Talk to us.
Be proactive. I always say to be proactive and be prepared and plan. But I would say, practically speaking, just really try to focus on each other. Be faithful in your relationship. Seek the counseling that you need. Get help that you need, whether it's pastoral or legal. If you're already in a marriage, you can still contact attorneys and work on like we talked about, postnuptial agreements. I mean, there's a lot of resources out there before you finally call it quits.
Right.
And so the focus is always on divorce as a last resort.
Yeah.
And to really do everything you can to try to work through the problems that will arise. Plan for them as much as you can in the beginning. And then take the steps and do the work necessary to work through them. If you can't, then of course there are divorce lawyers out there who will assist you, further and help
yourself.
Yeah, and help protect your future.
Yeah, protect yourself.
Yeah, but proactive and protection is most important.
Yeah, don't put your head in the sand.
Yeah, read the signs.
Yeah, even as painful as it might be.
Yeah.
Don't put your head in the sand.
I agree.
Whatever you do. And just because you go to a lawyer does not mean that you have to get a divorce.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Any good lawyer will try their best to help you stay in a marriage if it is at all possible.
Yeah, the lawyer you seek should look at it as, our job is to help a family try to solve a problem.
Right.
And if we can do that by giving you advice and things to do while you're in the marriage, fantastic. If we do that as you decide on your own to exit the marriage, that's fine. But the goal is to help you solve this problem and to help you transition to a better side, to the other side.
And I'll never forget the first time you came on the show, somebody called and asked about why would you have a prenup, and they were saying, oh, how terrible, aren't you planning for divorce, aren't you planning for failure, and I remember you said something like you buy insurance on your house,
you don't buy a car without insurance, you don't buy a house without insurance. Why in the world would you make one of the biggest decisions of your life without insurance in the form of a prenuptial agreement?
And I have never known a person to regret having a prenup. Okay?
Yeah.
Everybody I know that's had a prenup has been glad they had it.
Absolutely. The goal is that hopefully you put it away and never look at it.
Never have to look at it again.
When you do.
Well, when you do, God, you're glad you have it.
You're so glad you have it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you for having me. This
My
has been
pleasure.
fantastic.
Yes.
Once again.
Very, 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 very good information.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
This is attorney Ethel Mitchell. You're listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. Go to my website and sign up for the MailChimp. Next week, we will have another good program for you as we have each week. In the meantime, have a good week.
You've been listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. Be sure to tune in next Saturday at 9 a.m. for another informative broadcast. To reach Attorney Mitchell, you may do so by calling 202-772-1988. That's 202-772-1988. Or log on to her website, www.lawtalkwithethelmitchell.com.